Hi everybody, it's Ellie back today with another build in Willow Creek. Today we're doing the Potter's Splay lot, which is usually an empty lot. And today the type of vibe I was going for was a house that I usually do with my legacy builds. It's a nice large house with a back garden, it's got 3 bedrooms, only 1 bathroom though, as I absolutely just love families feuding over the 1 bathroom. Again, these builds are only base game with no custom content, so if you want to download it at the end, I will leave the name of the house in the gallery in the description. So otherwise, sit back, relax, and enjoy the build. Now, I'm not sure why, but these homemade bay windows gave me a lot of trouble, especially later when it came to the porch roof hanging from the front of the house. I couldn't get them to sit properly. I went through a few variations of how to do them properly, and each time they ended up a little bit glitchy, but in the end they did work, but it was a lot of trouble and a lot of trauma. Now that little pause there was me having the absolute light bulb moment to make this house pink themed. I did rename it to Pink on Display to go on with the splay part of the lot name, and I really loved how this one turned out. I was almost going to do it Barbie Dreamhouse vibes, but then I thought that might have been a bit too much, but I really did love how the pink turned out and all of the accent colours, so I was really happy with that. With the chimney here, I was very pleased with how it turned out. I always like doing a different colour brick for the chimney itself. I think it gives a nice contrast against the rest of the outside house colour. And here is what I was talking about earlier, the difficulty that I had with those upstairs bay windows. It turned out that the room just wasn't filling correctly, and that's why I was having all of the issues. I do eventually go in and fix it, and it does end up finally looking okay. I went for a closed concept plan for the floor plan, just because that's what I like doing with these types of houses. I think it makes them feel very nice, very cozy, and I just really liked how it turned out. In terms of the windows, on the downstairs I went for just plain white on the window panes, whereas upstairs, where there was the white plaster on there, I went for the white window panes with the pink accent, and I think that looked really, really nice. So what I'm doing now is just placing in some flooring. I ended up going very neutral on the flooring, with the exception of the bathroom for reasons you'll see, because it's going to be pink. And it's just so that I can get a flooring down, get some wallpaper down, so that when it comes time to decorating the insides, I'm not overwhelmed when it comes to choice. I think it adds a good layer of cohesion, and it does just make it easier when decorating later. So what we're doing now is just the landscaping and decorating the back garden. So I popped down some terrain paint, which is very usual of me. I like putting it in because it gives a nice 3D look. And I also removed that back window so that I can put a back door in so that we can have access to the garden, because I forgot about that. I don't do my usual thing of putting a pool in the back garden. What I actually managed to do was make a small decking on the back, and then I made some flower beds, which is my new favourite thing to do. So I put some built-in flower beds, but then what I also did is pop some planters in the back garden, and I made a very pretty flower bed at the front of the house using just some sparse flowers and some daisies that were sized down. Overall, I think the effect came off very nice, very lovely, and very cute. So here I'm just placing in the back garden furniture. I've got that very lovely cooking appliance there. I'm not sure what type of barbecue it is, or if it's meant to be an outdoor smoker, but it looks absolutely fantastic in the white and pink. And I placed a couple of deck chairs down with a table in between. I liked how I did the path with the terrain paint. I don't usually go that route, but I think it turned out looking very lovely and very whimsical. So for furnishing the house, I decided to do it backwards this time, as I really liked the shake up when I did it backwards a couple of builds ago. I decided to build an infant/baby room this time around. Not something I usually do. Usually what I do is a toddler, child or teen room, and even if I do the child room, it's always a child/teen room. So doing a nursery just for a baby or infant was a new step for me. I didn't think there would be that much to furnish the room with, as you're really pushed to download the pack that the infants came out for to actually be able to use it, like the changing tables and things like that. But I managed to find enough to fully kit out a nursery. I thought it was very cute, very pink vibes. I was sort of picturing that this is the firstborn daughter of the house and mum's just gone crazy with all the pink and the princesses, and I think it's just so cute overall. And next up we have the classic step of finding a beautiful curtain that will fit everything, so you just smack it in every room of the house. And for me it was these double curtains, and I really liked how they turned out. Moving on to the study, I honestly had no clue how I was going to decorate this going in, so I used a lot of neutral furniture at first, and it's only later when I pop in a painting did I realise that it was really going to come together in a light green and nature theme, hence why I put the little bonsai tree plant in there and a rug to tie it all together. Overall I thought it looked very nice, very smart and very focused. So when it came to the dining room, I knew I wanted it to be a family dining room. It would be a place where everyone came together to eat meals. I was, again, not sure how I was going to furnish it, so started out with very neutral colours, but in the end I did make it a light yellow/orangey theme to match the fruit bowl. I sort of do that when I do my builds, is I find one thing that I'd like to decorate the room against, and then I use that to match the colour scheme too. I also popped in a high chair in there because you've got the infant there that you can try the baby foods with if you've got the pack. And yeah, popped in some flowers, popped in a rug and a couple of hutches later on, and I thought it ended up looking really nice. So for the living room, I've been tempted to use that fireplace for ages, but I can never really justify the colour that I like it in. It's sort of that peacock green blue colour, and I absolutely adore it. I do try and contrast the wallpaper, and at first, I admit, it looks a little janky, but trust the process, it comes together so nicely in a bit, especially when I start matching the furniture and I get a rug in there. It ends up looking very, I want to say craftsman-like, almost like a hunter's lodge sort of thing, or what I imagine to be a hunter's lodge. But yeah, I really liked how this one turned out, and I was super excited to be able to use that fireplace. moving on to the bedrooms. This one is the kids' room, and I based it very heavily on how I grew up sharing a room with my two sisters. I had a younger sister and an older sister, both about 3 to 6 years difference either side of me, and I always enjoyed sharing a room with my sisters. I'm not gonna lie, I think it was very fun. We had a lot of laughs, and you know, we were very lucky to get along how we did. So if either of them are watching this, then they will recognize the layout, because we also had a TV stand with a little TV on. We had a bunk bed on one side of the room with a single bed on the other, and I absolutely loved bringing that into this build. I had a bit of a problem with finding a suitable wallpaper, but in the end I did go with that paneling there, and I decided to do a little computer area. I put some child hobbies in there too, and I tied the room together with a rug, and overall I thought it looked very nice. It was very nostalgic for me, and I just absolutely loved how this room turned out. Onto the master bedroom, and this one is surprisingly pink themed. I sort of imagined a single mum living here. I don't know why, I just love the idea of her loving the colour pink and putting that in as much of her house as she can. As you'll know, I did the built-in wardrobes again because, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It works, and I absolutely hate all of the base game chest of drawers. So I put a nice little dressing table in for Mum. I ended up with a nice shelf and mirror against the wall, and again a rug to tie it all together. I do end up changing the bed in a bit. I went through a small redesign and then undid it all and then cut it out with the movie magic editing. But yeah, I really liked how this room turned out. It was very lovely, very pink, and very fun. With the bathroom, I specifically made a family bathroom, so there is a shower tub combo as well as a shower cubicle by itself. As you're going to have a toddler or an infant in this house, then there does have to be a tub so that you can clean them. It goes in that little nook with the white tiled walls, and I think it looks really pretty in there. And as usual, throw a rug in, tie the room together, it never fails. And I just absolutely loved how the bathroom turned out. I just love how all my builds are turning out at the moment. Where I'm building more, I'm getting more practice in. I'm gonna find it probably a bit overwhelming when I start using packs in these builds, but I'm super excited to do it. In terms of the kitchen, I actually started placing the cabinets before I had any idea what the layout was going to be. So originally I do forget to make room for a fridge, but don't worry, I fix it. I fix a lot of things. Call me Fix It Felix. Or don't, we don't want to get sued here. But yeah, I liked the neutral tone cabinets, a bit on the darker wood side. I thought it went very well with the flooring and the tiles. Again, popped in a little island. This single mama is bougie. She has a well-paying job. She is top of her career, and I'm so happy for her. She's living her best life. And to show for it, she has an epic kitchen with hanging pans, a counter island, a cool fridge and cooker. I'm not sure what classifies them as cool, but they've got one. And one tip I do advise here is if you feel the lights aren't bringing enough brightness, is if you've got cabinets or things like that, hiding wall lights behind them using the bb.move objects cheat, that works really well. So as you can see, under the counter it's still all nicely bright and lit up. So yeah, just throwing in a few decorations, classic chalkboard on the wall, the whole kitchen towels, ketchup bits, and overall you got yourself a very lovely looking kitchen. And finally, we have the hallways, both upstairs and downstairs, to decorate. Upstairs, I did a chessboard, so you can build a little bit of a logic skill over there, and just threw another bookcase, because when you've got empty space, put in a bookcase. At least that's the motto I've just made up. I also put in some nice decorative items. I didn't use as many plants in this build as I usually do, so it was nice to put a plant in there. I really like that one. And then I'm just popping in some lights. Downstairs, I just do my usual decorations of the coat hooks by the front doors. I was going to put an accent table in, but where the corridor is so narrow, I thought that might cramp it up a bit. So instead, I just decorated with some art on the wall, and I thought that sufficed and looked very good. And that's the build finished, coming in at just over 101,000 simoleons. It is now live on the gallery. Thank you so much for watching today, guys. I realise the past couple have been a bit longer, but I do appreciate the time you take to watch these videos. If you want to like and subscribe, that would be fantastic. But if not, I hope you have a wonderful day and enjoy the free cam view.